April 1945. Soviet tanks are rolling into Berlin. Hitler is hiding in his bunker. Civilians are trapped in streets of rubble. This is the story of the fall of Berlin, a battle that ended a regime and changed the world forever. Before we start, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. The fall of Nazi Germany is one of the most dramatic stories in human history. By early 1945, the Third Reich was collapsing from within. Allied forces pushed in from the west, while the Soviet Union advanced from the east. Cities that had once stood proudly under the swastika were now ruins, silent reminders of a failing empire. Millions of civilians fled, seeking safety from advancing armies, while Berlin's streets became battlefields. Over 2.5 million Soviet soldiers, backed by thousands of tanks, artillery pieces, and aircraft, prepared to storm the city. The Reich's defenders, desperate and outnumbered, braced for the inevitable, knowing the war they had fought for years was coming to a catastrophic end. Every street and building in Berlin became a battlefield. German forces, including teenagers and civilians drafted into the fight, tried to resist, but nothing could stop the relentless Red Army. Day by day, block by block, Soviet troops advanced, leaving devastation in their wake. Beneath the city, Adolf Hitler hid in his bunker, isolated and in denial. He refused to accept the collapse around him, blaming failures on everyone but himself. Officers were executed for perceived disloyalty, and Hitler continued to issue orders to a city that was already lost. On April 29, he married Eva Braun, a final act of desperation. The very next day, April 30, 1945, as Soviet troops closed in, Hitler ended his life, and his body was burned above the bunker, leaving nothing but ashes of a dictator who brought ruin to millions. With Hitler dead, Germany's command structure began to crumble. Generals surrendered piece by piece, unable to maintain control over a city in flames. On May 2, the Soviet army raised the flag over the Reichstag, symbolizing the end of Nazi Germany. By May 8, Germany had formally surrendered, marking Victory in Europe Day. But victory came at a staggering cost. Over 70 million lives lost worldwide, countless cities destroyed, and a continent scarred by war and genocide. The fall of the Third Reich was not only a military defeat, it was a reckoning. It revealed the consequences of unchecked power and hatred, showing the world how even the most formidable regimes can collapse under their own weight. The Third Reich, once thought unstoppable, was reduced to rubble. Its leaders were dead, its soldiers captured, and its cities destroyed. Europe had witnessed the collapse of a regime that had terrorized millions. From the ruins of Berlin emerged a new order. Germany would be divided into zones controlled by Allied powers, and the world would enter the Cold War era. The United States and the Soviet Union rose as new superpowers, reshaping global politics. Yet the memory of Nazi crimes, the genocide, and the immense human suffering remained a powerful reminder that tyranny, no matter how mighty, is always vulnerable. History had proven that power built on fear and hatred cannot endure. The Battle of Berlin, the fall of Hitler's bunker, and the surrender of Germany are more than just historical events, they represent years of human suffering, resilience, and sacrifice. Streets that once echoed with the march of soldiers became silent reminders of what humanity endured. The Red Army's victory was both brutal and inevitable, a testament to determination and strategy. As historians look back, the fall of the Third Reich is seen as a turning point in human history, a moment when tyranny was defeated and the path to rebuilding Europe began. Cities had to be reconstructed, governments reformed, and societies healed after unimaginable destruction and chaos. The story of Hitler's empire and its collapse serves as a powerful lesson. No matter how mighty a regime may seem, history has a way of toppling even the most ruthless leaders. From the ashes of Berlin rose a world determined to rebuild, to remember, and to ensure that such a nightmare never happened again. The end of the Third Reich was not only the conclusion of a war but a warning for all generations to come. Tyranny may rise, but it cannot withstand justice, courage, and the persistence of truth. After the surrender of Nazi Germany in May 1945, the country was left in ruins. Cities lay in rubble, infrastructure was destroyed, and millions of people were displaced. The Allied powers, the United States, the Soviet Union, Britain, and later France, divided Germany into 4 occupation zones. Berlin, although deep inside the Soviet zone, was also split into 4 sectors. Each occupying power established its own military government, controlling daily life, resources, and administration. The country faced massive shortages of food, housing, and medical supplies. Factories, railways, and power plants were damaged or destroyed, leaving the population dependent on rationing and aid from the Allies. One of the most significant post-war events was the Nuremberg trials, where Nazi leaders were prosecuted for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and the Holocaust. These trials set a precedent for international law, holding leaders accountable for atrocities. Meanwhile, ordinary Germans were forced to confront the legacy of Nazism, coming to terms with the destruction, guilt, and moral responsibility left behind by the regime. Tensions soon emerged between the Western Allies and the Soviet Union, leading to the division of Germany into 2 separate states. In 1949, the Federal Republic of Germany, West Germany, was established under Western influence, adopting a democratic government and a market economy. The Soviet-controlled zone became the German Democratic Republic, East Germany, a communist state under strict Soviet supervision. West Germany, with support from the Marshall Plan, began a remarkable economic recovery known as the Wirtschaftswunder or economic miracle. Cities were rebuilt, industries revived, and democracy took root. East Germany, meanwhile, faced economic challenges, political oppression, and strict control over its citizens, with the Stasi monitoring almost every aspect of life. The post-war years were also marked by mass migrations and expulsions. Millions of ethnic Germans were forced from territories in Eastern Europe, further reshaping the population and creating long-term social challenges. The nation grappled with war guilt, rebuilding its identity, and coming to terms with the moral and physical devastation left by the Third Reich. By the 1980s, Germany remained divided, but the desire for reunification grew stronger. Finally, in 1990, following the collapse of the Berlin Wall in 1989, East and West Germany were officially reunified. The post-war transformation of Germany demonstrates both the destruction wrought by war and the resilience of a nation determined to rebuild. From the ashes of defeat, Germany evolved politically, socially, and economically, becoming a central player in Europe and the world, while never forgetting the lessons of its dark past.